The sun scorched the horizon into a blur of golden flame, and the wind dragged fine blades of sand across the surface of the dead world. Kayla stood motionless at the edge of the rise, eyes locked on the armored man kneeling below. Around them, the dunes shifted like slumbering beasts, and in the distance, her warriors waited, silent and still as statues carved from the stone of their ancestors. He looked up at her. His mouth was dry and bleeding, a split lip giving him a crooked grimace. She had stripped him of his helmet the moment he'd surrendered, not out of cruelty, but to see his eyes. Human. He was everything her people had warned her about, pale, armored, calculating. Yet when his squad fell, he had not fled. He had covered the retreat, shouting orders until the plasma burned away the earth behind him. She admired that. Stupidity and bravery often looked the same, but there was something in the way he moved that told her it was the latter. "Name," she demanded, her voice low, each syllable wrapped in the accent of her tongue, something guttural and ancient, like wind through stone. The man spat to the side and said, "Commander Jorenvale." "Commander," she repeated, as if tasting the word. "A killer, a planner, a man who orders others to die. I do what I must to protect my people." Kayla moved closer, the silver-white braids of her hair brushing against her shoulders like ghost threads. Her crimson skin shimmered with sweat, muscles coiled from war and heat. The desert bowed beneath her steps. "You think I'm a monster, don't you?" she asked, calm but sharp. Her gaze pierced him. Joran didn't answer right away. He watched her, eyes squinting against the glare, jaw clenched. Around them, the silence thickened. She crouched, close enough now that he could see the flecks of amber in her irises. "Say it." He didn't. Not yet. The last battle still raged in her memory. The night before, fire lit the sky as human dropships fell from orbit, their black hulls shedding flame like dying stars. Her warriors had surged forward, spears and plasma blades clashing against mechanized armor. The humans came with machines, exosuits, and bombs that turned sand into glass. But they hadn't expected resistance so fierce. Kayla had led the countercharge herself, carving a path through their lines until they fractured. He had been there. He'd fought her. And when his troops faltered, he had faced her alone, gun empty, knife drawn, daring her to strike. She hadn't. Instead, she'd bound him in front of the surviving soldiers. Humiliation worse than death. Now he was hers. "I have no use for captives who lie," she said. "Say what you think. Say what you see when you look at me." Joran stared. The helmetless soldiers behind her, her kin, stood still, waiting. Their eyes glowed faintly in the dusk. Alien, otherworldly. He remembered what his instructors had said about them. Hostile, tribal, untrustworthy. But those were easy words. Words spoken behind barriers. From ships in orbit. From command bunkers. "I see a soldier," he said finally. Kayla tilted her head, expression unreadable. "A soldier who has lost more than I can understand," he added, quieter this time. "Don't insult me with pity. It's not pity. It's recognition." She blinked. The moment held. "I was told your kind would say anything to survive," she muttered. "And yours would kill without question," Joran said, voice edged but controlled. Her eyes flared. "I have questioned. Every time. Every raid. Every fallen child. Every silent night that smells of burning iron. I have questioned more than your kind will ever admit." There was no triumph in her voice, only the sound of a woman burdened with the weight of command and history. Joran saw her for what she truly was. Not a savage, not a beast, but a mirror to his own haunted self. "Then why keep me alive?" he asked. "Why not end it?" Kayla stood, turning away. The wind caught the edge of her tunic, whipping the fabric around her waist. She didn't answer for a long time. "When I was young," she said at last, "I asked my father why we fought. He said, 'Because we are not meant to be forgotten.' I didn't understand then. Now I do. You land here with fire and weapons, thinking this world is yours. But it was never empty. We were here. We are here." Joran shifted, the restraints on his wrists biting against his skin. "I never thought it was empty," he said. "I just followed orders." "That's the problem." She turned back to him, this time her voice low and quiet. The worst monsters are those who follow orders without thinking. His throat tightened. From over the dunes, one of Kayla's second-in-command approached, armor etched with desert runes. The others wait. What should we do with him? Kayla looked down at Joran. His face was sunburned and dry, but his eyes held steady. She could kill him. She would be justified. Her people would cheer. But something inside her stirred, a pull, uncertain and dangerous. We march at dawn, she said. Take him with us. The warrior hesitated. Alive? Yes. Kayla's tone brooked no argument. She glanced once more at Joran. You'll walk, Commander. If you fall, you'll be left. If you try to run, I'll know. But for now, you are mine. He nodded, slowly. Understood. As they began moving down the slope, the twin sun sinking behind them, Joran cast a glance sideways. Kayla walked ahead, her presence commanding. A shadow edged in light. In the quiet of his mind, the question echoed again, monster? He wasn't sure anymore, and that terrified him. Far behind them, the battlefield lay broken and still, a graveyard of metal and bone. But ahead, beyond the sand and heat, something waited. A different kind of war. Perhaps the kind fought within. And it had only just begun. The desert had a voice at night, soft, sibilant, and eternal. It whispered through the cracks in the rocks, stirred the grains beneath tired feet, and hummed against the tension between the two who walked in silence. Kayla led the way, her stride sure, practiced. The heat of the day had given way to a breathless cold. But she didn't flinch. Her braided hair swung lightly against her back with each step. And though the light was low, her silhouette remained sharp, resolute. Behind her, Joran stumbled. His boots were not made for this terrain, and the sand stole strength with each stride. The restraints at his wrists had been replaced with a simple tether. Leather and old, tied to her belt, a symbolic leash. He hadn't spoken since they left the battleground hours ago. She stopped without warning. He nearly collided into her. You're dragging your feet, she said without turning. Maybe because I haven't eaten, he muttered, brushing sand from his mouth. Or slept, or had water since morning. She turned, eyes flashing in the starlight. You're still breathing. Barely. Then walk. He sighed, but there was no fire in it. Not anymore. You don't have to treat me like an animal. Kayla took a step closer. You were trained to kill me. You landed here to burn what's mine. And yet, you speak as if we are equals. We're not. Joran raised his chin, stubbornness flaring. And what are you, Kayla? A savior? A queen in exile? Or just another general addicted to war? The strike came so fast he didn't see it. Her hand gripping his collar and shoving him hard against a dune ridge. Sand spilled around him as she pressed forward, not enough to hurt, but enough to remind him that his life was not in his hands. I am what this world made me, she hissed, but I still choose. Every day, I choose not to become what you believe I am. His breathing slowed. Her face was inches from his. For a long moment, neither moved. Then, as quickly as the storm had risen, she let go. Kayla turned away again and sat on a smooth patch of stone. From a pouch at her side, she pulled a thin ration, a hardened fruit wrapped in cloth, and tossed it toward him. Eat it slow. It's all you get tonight. Joran sank beside her, still catching his breath. He chewed in silence, wary of her mood. Eventually he spoke. You said you choose. But your people follow you like zealots. Do they get a choice? She looked toward the stars. They follow me because I give them something your kind never did, truth. That's not the same as freedom. No, she agreed. It's not, but it's the only kind we can afford right now. He watched her a moment longer. Why not kill me, then? Honestly, I'm a prisoner, a threat. You gain nothing by dragging me through the desert. Kayla didn't answer right away. The silence stretched long enough that he thought she might ignore him. I killed someone once, she said at last. A human. Years ago. Young. Too young. He'd been left behind during a raid. Was crying. Hurt. Scared. He reached for something. I thought it was a weapon. I didn't wait. I reacted. She shifted, her voice steady but dull by distance. It was a photo. His family. A mother, a sister maybe. I carry that memory like iron around my neck. Joran didn't interrupt. Kayla continued. I tell myself war makes mistakes inevitable. But that night, I saw myself in his eyes. I saw fear, and I realized I was no longer defending. I was hunting. She looked at him then, and her gaze was bare. I keep you alive because I need to remember that choice exists. That mercy is not weakness. Joran swallowed. Then maybe we're not so different. You keep saying that, she replied, but you still carry a gun in your heart. He didn't answer, because she wasn't wrong. A sudden sound broke the moment. A low, grinding rumble from beneath the earth. Both of them stood instantly. Kayla with her blade drawn, Joran instinctively reaching for a weapon that wasn't there. Burrowers, she said grimly. They come for warmth. From the shadows emerged two beast-like creatures, reptilian and lean, their eyes like glass orbs. They moved fast, sand trailing behind them in ribbons. Joran took a step back. Kayla didn't. She lunged forward with the grace of a born killer, ducking under a swipe of claws and slicing clean to the creature's side. The second circled, jaws gnashing, but Joran stepped in, grabbing a broken staff from the ground and ramming it into the thing's neck. It let out a shriek and collapsed. Breathing hard, they stood together, backs to each other, blood cooling in the air. Joran looked down at the creature he had helped kill. That was reckless. Kayla sheathed her blade. That was necessary. He sat, more from exhaustion than relief. You know, this is probably the first time we fought on the same side. She glanced at him, the corner of her mouth twitching. Not a smile, exactly, but something less than disdain. He looked up at her again. You think I'm a monster, don't you? It came out softer than he intended, almost a whisper. Kayla didn't answer, not with words. Instead, she sat beside him once more, close enough that he could hear her breath steadying. She didn't look at him. Rest now, she said. We move again when the moon's set. But rest. And so he did. For a moment, the war between them paused. Just two bodies under an endless sky, surrounded by silence, questions, and a heavy air of something unspoken, waiting to rise. What she thought of him didn't matter. What he thought of himself was starting to change. Dawn broke slowly over the horizon, casting fractured light across the dunes. Joran stirred before the sun had fully risen, the dry air biting at his throat. His muscles ached from sleep stolen on stone, but what pulled him from rest wasn't pain. It was a silence, too deep, too still. Even the wind had stopped. Kayla stood several meters away, her figure framed by the first rays of sun, her eyes fixed on a ridge to the east. She hadn't slept. He didn't need to ask. Something was wrong. She sensed his movement and spoke without turning. Scouts haven't returned. Yours. Joran rose to his feet. How long have they been out? Too long. He joined her at the ridge, brushing sand from his shirt, the edges of fatigue still clinging to him like damp cloth. What are you expecting? Trouble, she said. Always. Below them, the land stretched wide and broken, veined with the scars of old wars. In the far distance, a series of black columns were rising. Smoke. Joran tensed. Those aren't natural burns. Someone's moving through the canyons. Kayla nodded. I know the signs. It's not my people, and it's not yours either. He looked at her, confused. Then who? She turned to face him fully. There are those who don't answer to either banner. Raiders. Scavengers. Some are exiles from our tribes. Others, things your were left behind. He didn't like the sound of that. You think they're after us? No. Her voice hardened. They're after the refugees. What refugees? Kayla didn't answer immediately. Instead, she started moving, fast and without explanation. Joran followed, confused but too wary to stay behind. They crested another dune, and beyond it, tucked in the hollow of the desert's curve, lay a cluster of makeshift tents, woven from sun-bleached fabric and parts of scavenged drop ships. Children ran barefoot through the sand. Old warriors, scarred and limping, tended to fires. Women with long braids and guarded eyes watched silently as Kayla approached. Their relief was visible, but cautious. "You're hiding people," Joran said quietly, eyes scanning the camp. "Civilians." "Survivors," she corrected. "My people from cities burned when yours arrived." His throat tightened. "I didn't know." "No," she said. "You didn't ask." A small boy ran up to Kayla, clutching a cloth doll stitched from soldiers' rations. He hugged her waist, and she knelt, speaking soft words in a tongue Joran didn't understand. The child nodded and ran back to the others. "She leads them like a queen," he murmured to himself. "Like a shield," came a voice behind him. It was the elder woman who approached, tall, with silver in her braids and a gaze like a carved stone. She regarded him with distaste, but not hate. He felt like she was measuring the weight of his soul. "You brought a ghost into our camp," she said to Kayla. "He is not the one who burned our fields," Kayla replied, "and he may yet serve." Joran tensed. "Serve?" Kayla glanced back at him. "They will come for this place. Raiders, maybe worse. You've seen how we fight, but we are tired. We need an edge." He didn't understand. "What could I possibly offer you?" "Knowledge," she said, "of their tactics. Their tech. Your kind left weapons scattered across this desert. You know how they work." Joran frowned. "I was a commander. I didn't handle munitions." Kayla stepped closer. "But you issued orders. You understood systems. You read maps and briefings. We don't need a soldier. We need a strategist." He took a slow breath. The idea of helping her, helping them, felt like betrayal. But betrayal of what? His command was gone. His mission dead. And the people before him weren't soldiers. They were families. "If I help," he said carefully, "what happens after?" Kayla didn't blink. "You leave. Free. No leash. No blade at your back. Or, if you don't help, you still leave. But you'll do so knowing you could have stopped what's coming." That hit deeper than he expected. Joran looked over the camp again, at the people, the children, the old and wounded. They were not the enemy he had trained to kill, and the war he had fought and had never prepared him for their eyes. "Show me the maps," he said. Kayla's expression didn't change, but there was a flicker of something in her gaze, approval, perhaps, or hope. They led him to a low tent where old digital pads flickered dimly, their batteries scavenged and stretched. Kayla pointed at a canyon pass to the north. "They always come through here," she said. "The walls give them cover. We've set traps, but they're clever. Lately, they send scouts first. Master's traitors." Joran studied the layout. "You've been reacting. That's the problem." He crouched and began drawing lines in the sand. "You need make them think they've won before the real fight starts. Dig pits just beyond your visible barricades. Funnel them into a false route. Let them believe they've outsmarted you." Kayla watched, arms crossed. "You've done this before," she said. "Yes," Joran admitted, "but not for people like you." She didn't smile, but her tone softened. "Then maybe now is the time to start." They worked through the day. Scouts were sent. Traps were reset. Families moved deeper into safer ground. Kayla barked orders with confidence, but Joran could tell, beneath the armor, the scars, she was afraid. Not for herself. For them. And he didn't know what to do with the strange ache in his chest as he realized he was afraid for them, too. That night, the stars were sharp and clear. He sat beside the campfire, nursing a cracked canteen, when Kayla joined him. "You spoke of orders once," she said, low. "How you only followed them." He nodded slowly. "It's easier to follow than question. Easier to believe you're right when you're told so every day." Kayla looked at the fire. "And now?" He didn't answer immediately. Then, "Now I wonder how many monsters I helped make." She turned her gaze on him. "We are all made," she said. "But what we become, that part is ours alone." The wind shifted. The fire cracked. In the distance, faint and cold, came the sound of a war horn. The enemy was coming, and the night was far from over. The war horn's echo faded into the stillness, but its promise lingered like smoke, unwelcome, heavy, inevitable. Kayla's stance shifted the moment she heard it, eyes scanning the horizon, already calculating, already moving. Joran stood beside her, his hands clenched at his sides, heart thudding too loudly in his chest. He had heard that sound before on other worlds. Cities collapsing under orbital fire, comrades screaming over calms before the static swallowed them whole. But here, in the desert, surrounded by children and elders instead of soldiers, it felt different, more personal, more dangerous. "They're testing our nerves," Kayla said. "They do this before they strike." Joran looked at the dimming sky. "How long?" "Less than an hour." He nodded. "Then we don't have time for speeches." She looked at him with something like grim approval and gave a sharp whistle. People began to move, swiftly and without panic, like waves across the sand. Traps were double-checked, weapons handed out, crude, mismatched things, half salvage, half ingenuity. A spear made from a landing strut. A blaster welded to a farming tool. Every item bore signs of desperation. Joran moved among them, directing where he could, drawing on old instincts that surprised even him. Kayla never hovered, never corrected. She let him lead where he needed to, as if she understood that this wasn't about hierarchy anymore. It was about trust, forged in shared fire. Night dropped its curtain, and with it came the first figures over the ridge. Shadows at first, then shapes. Raiders, lean, mean, covered in patchwork armor and black cloth. No emblems, no loyalty but to violence. There were more than Joran had expected, more than Kayla had hoped. A boy nearby whimpered. Kayla placed a firm hand on his shoulder. Stillness. Like stone. Joran crouched beside a pile of debris that hid a makeshift pit. He had chosen this spot, chosen it knowing it might be his last stand. He could hear the raiders now, laughing as they approached, confident, unaware. "They think they found the weak point," he whispered. Kayla, hidden a few paces away, replied, "Then let them bleed for it." The first wave came fast. A group of 6, armed with pulse rifles and sharpened hooks, swept into the narrow pass. Just as Joran had predicted, just as he'd baited. The sand swallowed their first 3 as hidden pits gave way beneath them. Screams lost the churn of dust. The others faltered, just long enough. From the flanks, Kayla's warriors struck, swift and brutal. Arrows tipped with chemical fire. Slings wielded by children with more fury than fear. Chaos bloomed. Screams lit the night. Joran joined them, wielding a jagged piece of scrap like a blade, his breath short, muscles burning. He fought beside an old man with no left arm who still moved like a phantom, and a girl no older than 15 who laid traps faster than he could track. But for every enemy they downed, 2 more appeared. Kayla moved through the fight like a storm, fluid, unrelenting. Her blade sang, her voice clearer than any horn. She was everywhere at once, and Joran found himself drawn to her like gravity. Whenever he wavered, her presence pulled him back to purpose. "We have to fall back," he shouted over the roar of gunfire. "We hold," she shouted back. "A little longer." Explosions rocked the outer edge of the camp. Fires rose. Screams multiplied. The enemy was deeper than they should have been. Somewhere, a barricade had failed. Then came the second horn, louder, closer, different. Kayla froze. Joran saw her eyes darken. "That's not them." And then he saw the truth cresting the western ridge. Not raiders. Soldiers. Real ones. Uniformed. Disciplined. And carrying weapons Joran hadn't seen since his command days. Black armor, insignia blurred, but the posture unmistakable. Joran's stomach sank. Why the hell would the fleet be here? Kayla's expression was unreadable, because they always return to finish what they start. The battle splintered. Raiders fled as the newcomers descended with surgical precision. Civilians scattered, many falling where they stood. Kayla rallied what fighters she could, but it was clear they weren't going to hold. Joran ran to her, ducking blaster fire. "We can't win this." "Then we make it cost them," she said. "No." He grabbed her arm. "You don't get to be a martyr." "Not today." She hesitated. "I know those units," he said. "I know their tactics. I know how to delay them." She stared at him, breath ragged. "You're going to give yourself up." "I'm going to buy time." Kayla's jaw clenched. If you go back, they'll kill you. Maybe, but they'll hesitate first, because they'll want to know what I know. He looked at the children, the wounded, the tents already burning. You need a chance to escape. This is the only one I can give. For a moment, she said nothing. Then softly, "You think I'm a monster, don't you?" His voice broke when he replied, "No, I think you're the only real thing I've ever seen." She stepped forward, rested her forehead against his, just for a heartbeat, just long enough. Then she turned and shouted to the others, "Evacuate! Take the eastern route." He ran before he could change his mind. Joran crested the rise with his hands raised. The soldiers halted their fire, just briefly, just enough. A commander stepped forward, visor reflecting firelight. "You're supposed to be dead," he said flatly. "I'm not," Joran replied, "and I've got information you want." Behind him, the sounds of retreat. Kayla's people, her family, slipping away into the desert. Ahead of him, the black eyes of men who had once called him comrade. He had never felt more alone, or more certain. "Take me in," he said, and they did. Behind the fire, Kayla did not cry. She did not scream. She did not look back. But the desert did, and it remembered the man who chose to stand. The war was not over, but something had changed.